Where I've been, life update, and a very chatty and informative video. Stay tuned. Hi, and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. Well, first I'm going to start off by apologizing. I'm sorry that I didn't put up any videos last week at all. So I've kind of been missing in action. And I'm going to explain to you why. All I have to do is tell this story and you'll know where I've been and what the life update is. So, where to begin? As most of you know, my sister passed away in July of this year. Her and my brother-in-law live here 6 months out of the year, and then they go to Pennsylvania for 6 months, which was their permanent address. Well, after my sister passed away, my brother-in-law was here, and we've been keeping a close eye on him. He was very depressed, sad, everything you could imagine that you would be when something like that happens. They had been married for 54 years, so quite a long time. Because their permanent address is in Pennsylvania and they have a home there, he decided to go up there, and he wanted to stay like 6 weeks to just look around the house, go through some papers and things and get it ready to sell because he would be living here permanently. Now first I have to say, we did not want him to go. We felt like it was too much, and besides that, the most important thing is my sister made me promise not to let him go to Pennsylvania without my husband Dave going with him. She knew it would be a bad idea, that something could happen, and she made me promise. And I made that promise to her. Well, my brother-in-law, I'm going to tell you his name. It's Ken, so I don't have to keep saying my brother-in-law. So Ken decided he wanted to go, but he wanted to go by himself. He didn't want Dave to drive him up there and just stay a week or 10 days, go through the house, get it all cleaned out and emptied, so that he could then put it on the market. He really wanted to go for about 6 weeks, and he wanted to fly up by himself. We didn't want that at all, and neither did his daughter or his sister, but he has the right to make his own decisions, and that's what he wanted. So he went. Well, unfortunately, something really bad happened to him there. After he had been there a good, I'd say 3 weeks, he got very sick one day. Very sick. This would have been October 9th. And of course no one knew he was sick because he was just up there in the house by himself. Well, we would call him every day just to see how things were going. So one day Dave and I went out. He dropped me off at Marshall's and he waited in the car. So while he was in the car, he called Ken to check on him. Ken told him he had been very, very ill. He was in bed. He was vomiting. He just was extremely sick, lethargic, and just couldn't move, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't do anything. Of course, Dave encouraged him to go to the doctor, call a doctor, do something, but he said no, he would be fine. Dave knew he wouldn't be fine. Ken is a brittle diabetic. He's a type 1 diabetic, and he has been diabetic for, I think, 50 years now, or maybe 45 years. And his sugar can get very erratic. It can go way up and way down, and it can cause a lot of damage in the body. Dave loves to cook, so when he's here in South Carolina, they would eat together almost daily. And we kept a close eye on him to make sure he was eating right and things like that. But while he was up there, he got lost in thoughts and memories, and he had so many boxes to go through and drawers and things like that. He just couldn't keep up with it. So after Dave hung up from talking to Ken, he just knew something was wrong. So he called my brother, who lives maybe 20 miles or 20 minutes away, and asked him to please go over and check on him. And then, in the meantime, he also called some friends that were friends of my sister and her husband, who live much closer, and asked if they would please go over to the house and check on him. Well, the friends did, and of course my brother was on his way, and they found him up in the bedroom, just in terrible shape. She wanted to call 911 and he refused, but she knew it was not good. So anyhow, I was on the phone with her, and then she put me on the phone with Ken, and I asked him, please, let us call 911. Again, he said no. And after talking to him for a while, then he agreed. Well, thank God, because 911 was called, and he had had a heart attack. He was in very bad shape, very, very ill. And 911 was there and worked on him for 2.5 hours. They lost him twice. His heart stopped beating for the first time 2.5 minutes, and the second time just a little under 2 minutes. They could not get him stabilized enough to even move him, to put him in the ambulance and take him to the hospital. They called for backup, and 3 more EMTs came, and they were all working on him, and it was not good. So finally they got him stable enough to get him to the hospital. He ended up on life support. My brother went to the hospital and was waiting to speak to the doctor. When the doctor came out, the doctor told my brother he was not going to make it, and there was nothing they could do. So they hooked him up to a ventilator and an external pacemaker on his heart, because every time they took that pacemaker off, his heart would stop beating. So they put it on there so that they could call his daughter. They have one child, Mackenzie, and currently she is in D.C. They wanted to be able to contact her so she could fly in to tell her dad goodbye, and then they would disconnect the life support. She got on a plane right away, got in that night, went to the hospital. By then it was midnight, and she saw her dad hooked up to the ventilator and tubes everywhere, the full life support. And the doctor said, he wasn't going to make it, and that he advised to pull the plug, just take him off the life support. Well, my niece, Mackenzie, said it was just so overwhelming that she said to the doctor, can I wait until tomorrow morning? Because she just couldn't make that decision. And the doctor said that was fine. To make a long story shorter, the next morning she went back to the hospital and they had taken the pacemaker, the external pacemaker, off of his heart, and it started beating on its own. Now you know that's a miracle. When the doctors said there was no hope, he would not make it, his heart started beating. Of course, he wasn't breathing, so he was still on the ventilator. He ended up in there 9 days. And when he came off the ventilator, they tried like a few days after that, and it was unsuccessful, and then they tried again, and he made it. You have to make it for 2 hours before they can remove the ventilator, to have you breathe on your own over the ventilator. And it's very painful and irritating because you're trying to breathe, but yet you have this tube down your throat and you're still on the ventilator. It's just turned down to practically nothing. He finally was able to make it 2 hours and they took him off. So there he was, a man that was pronounced dead twice, no, 3 times, because the same thing at the hospital. No heartbeat, no breathing, nothing. There he was, breathing on his own and his heart beating. And he remained in the hospital. He's, again, very weak, lost so much weight, had many problems because of being on the ventilator. A lot of pain through the center of his chest, and that is because of having that tube down your throat and the irritation and the inflammation and all the phlegm and stuff that was just laying in his lungs because nothing was working. So it all creates pain. So when he finally got off all the life support, had all the tubes taken out. He had a NG tube, like a feeding tube, just the whole works. They took him out of critical care and he went to a regular room. And they did some things with him, like like physical therapy would come up and someone get on each side of him and he could take like 10 steps. That's how weak he was. So he was to be discharged on the 19th of October. And they wanted him to come straight to South Carolina. He could fly as long as someone accompanied him. And his daughter flew back again from Washington, D.C. to accompany him down here. Once he landed here, he was to go from here by medical transport from the airport to a place called Encompass Rehabilitation Inpatient Hospital. He needed a lot of therapy. Well, here's like some good information I'm going to share with you. I have to break in here and tell you this. Any of you who are over 65 and on Medicare, or anybody that's getting ready to turn 65, please be careful what you select for your Medicare coverage. If you select just regular straight Medicare, and then you can get a supplemental policy, you'll be fine. If you take a Medicare Advantage plan, you better hope you never get ill. Oh my gosh, and I knew all this stuff because it's my line of work. So he had a Medicare Advantage plan, and probably the worst one you could have. Well, that Advantage plan would not authorize him to go to the rehabilitation center. I mean, how ridiculous. A guy that is 79 years old, a brittle diabetic, on life support for days, and they said no. Where if he had had regular, straight Medicare, you don't ask anybody. He would have just been taken straight to that inpatient hospital. So we were like, well, what do we do? I mean, he needs intensive therapy, a physical therapy, swallowing therapy from having that ventilator, just a multitude, cardiac therapy, things like that. And they said, well, you just have to put him in a nursing home. No way. Absolutely not. I would not let that happen. And of course, I talked it over with Mackenzie, his daughter, and she agreed completely. So we decided to bring him here to my house, and we would keep him here. Now, since then, I applied for regular Medicare for him to switch from the Medicare Advantage plan to regular Medicare. And that will take effect on November 1. Then he can go in the rehab inpatient hospital and receive the care and therapy and everything he needs. But in the interim here now for weeks, he left critical care, the hospital, the life support, and just would have ended up in a nursing home. So we brought him here, and his daughter flew in with them. She came here, stayed the weekend because she works and she has a family and 2 little children. But she spends every minute she could with him. Every weekend she can, she comes. So here we are. We are trying our best to care for him and watch over him. We have to monitor his sugar. He has to take it every hour or so to make sure it's not going up and down, up and down. And he's on an insulin pump, and he has a slew of medication that they put him on now that he had a heart attack. So, just making sure he gets his medication, that he's comfortable, that he's watched 24/7, because it's very critical at this point. So that's where I've been. Family comes first above all else, and it is our pleasure to have him here and to watch over him and know that he's getting the best we can give him. We are not medical professionals, but we can watch him 24 hours a day, and we do. Now remember, somewhere in this story, I told you he had a lot of pain in this part of his chest. And it makes sense that he would, due to the ventilator and the tube and all that stuff. However, that pain was severe. I mean, crushing. And so a week ago, we thought, maybe there's more to it than that. Because the pain was so bad, what if he was having another heart attack? How would we know? So we took him to the emergency room. Well, come to find out, because of the aggressive and lengthy and repeated CPR that he had to have to try to bring him back to life, to get his heart to beat. There were 5 different guys working on him, and they press down on your chest like this. They have to put a lot of force and weight into that. Well, they had broken one of his ribs and fractured his sternum, the bone right here in the middle of the chest. That was causing the additional pain. So on top of all this, he's got one broken rib and a fractured sternum, which they missed in the hospital in Pennsylvania. They took an x-ray the day before he was to be discharged, and they said his lungs were clear and everything looked great. Now, how could you miss a broken rib and sternum? I mean, that shows up on an x-ray. Anybody could see that. You wouldn't have to be a professional. It's so very obvious, but that's another story. So anyhow, he's doing very well for all that he's been through. He's just amazing, I'm telling you. He is so determined to get back on his feet and get well. And we have a rollator that my sister used, and that's one of those stand-up walkers that you put your wrists on and you hold on to the handles like this. He's been walking around the courtyard and through my house and now up and down the driveway around my cul-de-sac to try to build up his strength. We got some help in. We got a home health care company. So a physical therapist has come and given some light exercises that he can do sitting in a wheelchair to get his strength back in his legs, which he has. And we also hired something called South Carolina House Calls. Have any of you heard of something like that in the state where you live? I don't know if this is a nationwide thing or just a South Carolina thing, but oh my gosh, what a lifesaver they have been. What it is they have a whole network of therapists, doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, everything. And they come to your house, like house calls. Remember back in the day when we were young, the doctor would come to your house? Well, that's what it is. And it is wonderful. So we have had nurse practitioners, nurses, CNAs, all kind of people coming in and out, in and out. The days are busy with all these people coming all the time. And then in addition to that, we have telehealth Zoom calls daily with the doctor to follow up on everything. Anything you need, they bring to you. Even if you needed an x-ray, they bring a portable x-ray unit to your home. Because he can't be going anywhere. I mean, he can't get in the car and we take him to a doctor and sit in a waiting room and all that. He's in bad shape in that way. He can't do those things yet. So everybody is coming here, which has just been a true godsend. And I am so proud of him. He has worked so hard. He has come back in a big way. I know he's got a long way to go as far as the physical therapy. He needs intense physical therapy. But I'm telling you, he's halfway there because he has really worked at it very, very hard. So that's where I've been. That's my life update. And I just wanted you all to know that I will get back to making videos. Now, I'll try to make one for Friday. I may not be able to, but certainly the week after that, I'll get back to making videos. Like I said, he'll be going into the rehabilitation inpatient hospital on Wednesday of this week. I don't believe he'll have to be there long. Maybe, I don't know, 7 to 10 days because of how well he is doing. And that's our hope. And then he's going to come out of there just a strong, vibrant man like he was before all of this happened. So just wanted to share that with you. Let you all know I miss you. I haven't forgotten about you. I'm sorry. I think my last 2 or 3 videos that I had, like a week before last week, they were pre-filmed, and I don't think I've answered any of the comments. I just don't have time because of all these appointments and people coming in and out and in and out. And, I want to spend time with Ken, and so does Dave. And we just want to do everything we know how to do to get him back to health. And we're actually enjoying it because it's so rewarding to see his improvements. It just makes my heart smile and feel so good. So, it's been a rough year as far as my mother dying first, then my sister, then this happened to Ken. Oh my gosh. But, you know, when I look at him now and see the improvements, and I know he's going to make it just fine, I feel so much joy. I really do. So I thank you all for listening. And again, I'm sorry I've been MIA, but I'm coming back soon. And now I want to leave you with an inside beauty tip. My inside beauty tip today actually comes from my husband, Dave. It's kind of funny, but I wanted to share it with you. With Ken's heart stopping and being dead for 2.5 minutes and then a minute and 49 seconds. And then when he got to the hospital, every time they took that external pacemaker off, his heart would stop and they couldn't get it back unless they laid that back on there. He was a goner. So Dave said, gee, only 2 people have been risen from the dead. That's Jesus and Lazarus. And now Ken. If they rewrite the Bible, they'll have to put the book of Ken in it. And it was funny. It was cute. But what he was meaning was that Ken had a true miracle. You cannot look at it any other way. For as bad as condition he was in, meaning being a brittle type 1 diabetic on an insulin pump for all these years, having been brokenhearted and grieving, having lost so much weight, and he was small to begin with. He's never been overweight. Everything he went through, he was brought back to us. That is a miracle. There's no other way of looking at it. Miracles do happen. We don't know why they happen for some and not the other, but that's just the way it is. I would have loved for my sister to have had a miracle and somehow made it through her battle with cancer. I don't question why she didn't get that miracle, because God's will is to be done. But with Ken, God still wanted him here. He has a purpose. He still has more to do on this earth. And here he is. So never, ever give up hope. Always believe in miracles and accept the outcome no matter what it is. Because if it's God's will, then that's all we need to know. I was thinking about Luke, I think it's chapter 12, verse 48, maybe 47. Anyhow, it says something like, to whom much has been given, much is expected. And that's true. And I can tell you, for me, I have been given much in my life. Now, I'm not talking about money. I don't have any stocks, bonds, investments, gold, silver, any of that stuff. I'm just a hard-working old girl and worked all my life, and so has Dave. We are comfortable, we are happy, we are content. I have my health. I mean, as of this day, I have my health. I'm a very healthy person. No medications, no high blood pressure, no nothing. That is a huge gift. I have a beautiful family and grandchildren who are all so loving and kind and giving and compassionate. What more could I ask for? I have a roof over my head. So I have been given much in my life. And it is an honor and a pleasure to give back, to help someone else in their time of need. And I think that's what we all need to remember, that no matter what, we have something to offer somebody else. Everybody has different talents and different gifts. And if mine is caregiving for someone to help them get through a rough time or get back on their feet, I'm happy to do it. I'm no healthcare worker. I don't know a doggone thing. But by darn, if you need me to be beside you 24 hours a day, just to get you a glass of water, to bring you your medication, to do anything, I'm willing to do it. I'm there to do it. And I enjoy it because it fills my heart. So we all have those talents. And we need to remember we've all been given much. And we are expected to give back to others. It is the most rewarding feeling. It's a pleasure and it's an honor. I thank you so much for being here today. I truly do appreciate it. And until we meet again, this is the old girl signing out. See ya.